Hello, this is Tyler Beamer from Haywood Community College. This is an instructional video to show students how to create a histogram using Microsoft Excel. I have male pulse rate data from various males at different ages, and what I have done is I have basically just copied this pulse rate column over into column E. That way I can manipulate this data without losing the paired data that I have in my list with ages and pulses. So what I want to do is I want to sort this data first, so I'm going to highlight it. And I'm going to go over here to sort and filter, and I'm going to go smallest to largest. Okay. Then I'm going to find the range of the data, and the range is equal to the smallest value in the data list, which is 46. The largest minus the smallest. That way we don't get a negative number. So the largest would be 90 minus the smallest, 46, and that gives me a range of 44. So that's helpful for me to determine the intervals of the different classes in my histogram. How many classes I have in my histogram is arbitrary. So if I want to create say 7 classes, then I would want to divide my range by 6. You want to divide it 1 less than that, because the last class is going to contain the last data point, and so you'll be slightly off. If we divide by 7, we'll actually end up with 8 classes. So let's divide the range by 6. So that gives us our class width. Class width of 7.33. Okay. And then, we can be exact with that if we want. We can change that if we want. If we want to make it, easier on ourselves, we can just make that class width 7. That way it's just easier for us, and we don't have to deal with decimal places. Okay. So that's what we'll do. Okay. So essentially, our intervals. Our lower class limits, and we're going to have upper class limits. So our first lower class limit is obviously going to start with the lowest value in our data set, 46. And so if we want our class width to go up 7 each time, then the next lower class limit needs to be 46 plus 7. So that will give us our value for the next lower class limit. Okay, so the class width is consecutive lower class limits subtracted. And so then the upper class limit for the first class will be 52. So as close as we can to 53. And if I continue to add 7, okay, then I can continue to get my new classes. And of course I want to continue this till I reach all the way up to at least 90, because that's the highest data point. So we will continue that. And so if we get to this, class. We're at 95, so we can really stop here, right? We can do 88 to 94, and that'll encapsulate all our data, right? So if we look at this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We actually have 7 classes exactly, since we lowered that class width to 7 to make it a little bit easier for us to create our frequencies. Okay, so now what we want to do is to identify our bins that Excel will use to create the different classes and the histograms, and Excel actually uses the upper class limits to create those, and then it'll basically put in the frequencies for each of the individual pulses in the classes and then graph it for us. So to do that, we go to Data and Data Analysis. If you do not see Data Analysis when you click on Data, you can load that in Excel. It's an add-on. I'll show you how to do that now. If you go to File, Options, Add-ins, Go, and then you want Analysis Toolpack checked and OK. And then when you click on Data, you should see Data Analysis. You should only have to do that one time if it's your personal computer, and then it should be there from here on out. So if you click on Data Analysis, we want histogram. Click OK. So it's going to ask us for some information. Input range is the pulse. So that's our data. So it doesn't matter if I select the data that was sorted or the data that's unsorted. That doesn't matter at this point. The bins is the upper class limits that we just created. So select those. The output range is basically the blank spot on your Excel sheet that you want to put the information. So just highlight a blank area. And then I would select on chart output so you can actually see the frequency distribution and then the cumulative percentages, which will essentially give you the OGAV line graph along with your histogram. So click OK. And then you can see that data is given to us. So essentially what Excel is doing is it's taking all this data and it's putting the data into each of these classes and denoting the frequency. So a frequency is the number of pulse rates that belong to each of those classes. And then we also have the cumulative percentage beside that. And then it has our histogram here. The only thing that we would want to change with the histogram is we would want to eliminate the gap between the bars. Technically a histogram does not have that. So if I double click on the actual bars themselves, it'll give me an option for gap width here, and I just want to make that 0, and then that will eliminate the gap between the bars, and then that would be our histogram, and then that helps us to identify distribution. Okay, so you can see that this has somewhat of a normal distribution here, going up to a peak and then coming down. So alright, so that's how you create a histogram in Excel, and that is very helpful when analyzing data. So, alright, thank you.